Previously on the top 10 MCU films. Number 10, Iron Man 3. Number 9, Doctor Strange. Number 8, Thor Ragnarok. Number 7, Guardians of the Galaxy. And number 6, Spider-Man Homecoming. Now, back to our program.
Spider-Man Homecoming was a fantastic film and, definitely a worthy rendition of bringing the wet head into the MCU. And the way they did that segue was through our next film, number 5, Captain America Civil War, which did a lot of things and did a lot of things really well. Chief among them introducing us to Spider-Man in the MCU. We got an interesting take on, what the Avengers had become, the responsibilities that they think they all bear, what it means to have this essentially rogue agency of superheroes that are far more powerful than any just regular person or any government to a large extent, basically being autonomous. Obviously Tony thinking they should be put in check, Cap thinking they're better on their own.
Yeah.
A lot of things to break apart, but just a quick takeaway from why you think this one, cracks our top 5 and was so high up and held in such regard.
Yeah. I just really like the idea of such a powerful force of nature that the Avengers are having a conflict within themselves, because I think it's something that's really interesting just to see in general. I feel like it's interesting when you have a body of characters, or you have a group that finds divide within themselves. It's just interesting to watch. I know that I'm a fan of the Civil War comic book. I bought that and read it before I saw Civil War, the movie. And if you haven't read it, highly, highly, highly recommend reading it. It's extremely gritty, and it's amazing to see the action in it. The panels are really well done. And everybody is in the comic book version. So the X-Men are in there. The Avengers that we see in the movie are in there. There are other Marvel characters you forget about that are involved.
Which, and just, before we continue on, just side plug in general for the comics where these all came from.
Side plug.
We don't have this amazing universe without the source material, and Kevin Feige was just saying in a recent interview with all the cast of Civil War was that what keeps this universe grounded and moving forward, and how do they keep all of these grand ideas connected and making sense, and they pull them all together in something like Infinity War. And he said it's the comics.
Yeah.
We go back to the source material, and in these movies you'll see characters or panels in particular that are direct recreations from the comics, because that is, where this all comes from. And so, support your local comic shop is what I guess I'm saying. Because, that's where these all came from. And if you want more like this, that is the source.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's okay. I think that's pretty much the majority of what I was going to say, is just that I really enjoyed seeing how they came to a conclusion of what they were fighting for. Because I think they needed that in order to go forward with stories like Infinity War. If they don't have the unity that they have together, then everything falls apart and no one is safe. So I think that they kind of needed that moment of, we don't know what we are or what we're doing, and we need to figure it out before we can fight other things. And I liked that they did that in this way. I think that it made for a really great film, a really fun movie, a dark movie. It wasn't, your typical, everything.
It wasn't as quippy as some of the other Marvel movies, necessarily.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, and jumping off of that point, obviously, you can't fracture unity without the unity to begin with, which is a great segue into our next film, number 4, the original 2012's
The OG Avengers. The movie that we've been waiting for since 2008, when this whole thing started.
Right, when we got that random post-credit scene when a young man named Samuel L. Jackson just happened to wander out of Iron Man's curtain and disable Jarvis and say, I want to talk to you about the Avenger Initiative. The MCU was born from that. We finally got the culmination of everything.
Man, that tracking shot when they all are on the street, that frame is the constant in my head. Because it's here it is. Here's the team. It's going to be amazing.
It's the culmination. It is everything at that point.
Yeah. I mean, they've come together in earlier ways, but that was that shot is just wow, here's what we've been wanting to see for so long. And it's finally
here.
Right,
it was here is the team. Yeah. so many nerd tears.
Yeah.
At that moment. It was so good. Obviously, like we were saying, this was the culmination of everything, which started in 2008, which is our number 3 film. We're talking about the original Iron Man, you knew it was going to be hitting high on this list. And so,
Oh, yeah.
Robert Downey Jr., directed by Jon Favreau, taking a big risk on, at that point, essentially an unknown for a lot of people character, as we said earlier in the video. I mean, obviously, you and I, we really didn't know what to expect from this. I mean, I think we heard that The Incredible Hulk was coming after that later in 2008, but, I don't think, at least for me, it didn't really hit that, like, these two were going to really connect in that big way that was going to launch all of this.
Yeah, no, it was just an awesome thing. Like, it wasn't really, no one knew that there was a plan, really. I mean, I didn't. I remember I was in high school, and I heard about Iron Man in, like, 2006, I think. And I was like, Iron Man? I don't even know anything about Iron Man. I was like, that's going to be just a cool movie to watch. And I had no idea it was going to explode into this incredible thing that's become the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which wasn't even a term in 2008. It hadn't even been created.
Well, I mean, Marvel really wasn't its own studio in 2008. So,
it wasn't. I mean, and we had a lot of really fun things leading up to that, starting with Spider-Man starting with X-Men in 2000.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Marvel properties laid the groundwork to be able to get us here that didn't have anything to do with the MCU. I mean, you could talk about Blade, you could point to, like you said, Spider-Man, obviously the first X-Men movie. But yeah, I mean, this was really the turning point to say, like, hey, this fandom is something that is real, it is powerful, and look what we can do with it.
Yeah, and talk about a redefinition of a career, because, like, I knew who Robert Downey Jr. was, kind of, and I think I had seen Chaplin before I saw Iron Man. I can't remember now if I did or not, but, like, just completely exploded Robert Downey Jr. as an actor on the screen after that movie.
Well, I mean, you think about, actors that are like a perfect marriage to their character. Obviously, Hugh Jackman, Wolverine, you could say Ryan Reynolds in Deadpool, but you have to throw Robert Downey Jr. in that conversation as Tony Stark.
Just nails it.
Just
perfect.
As the character of Tony, of having that revelation of, turning his life around. The movie did that for Robert Downey Jr. It was just such a nice life imitating art, imitating life kind of moment that I think really helped propel this movie into what it is.
No, definitely. I completely agree.
And so now we are coming down to our final two. A lot of discussion between us off camera that would have made this review even longer. It's already pretty long. We decided that Captain America, the Winter Soldier, is our number 2 of the top 10 MCU films. We have Cap the Boy Scout, who has put all of his trust and faith in, believing in the greater good of, what the government and S.H.I.E.L.D. can do, and, just to have that completely be subverted for him, and to have him go on this journey as he's trying to protect his friend who, doesn't really remember Captain America really as Steve. He just sees him as an adversary. So you have that dimension to it. You have, Robert Redford as the leader of Hydra, who's infiltrated S.H.I.E.L.D. and the destruction of that piece that we thought was, this beacon of good in the MCU. Clearly that was, a charade. And, there was just a lot to dissect here. And it was also the first Marvel film to really go a different slant, outside of feeling like just this is a comic book movie. But this was a comic book movie that had a 70s political thriller element to it. And it was the first time we'd really seen Marvel do that, break outside of like the real, like, this is a comic booky type movie mold to it. What was your takeaway from
I think Soldier? I agree with it. It broke the mold of being a comic book kind of movie. I mean, it obviously was, because it's based off of a freaking comic book. I thought you're right. I really liked, I know I sometimes use the same terminology for certain things, but it's sort of looking at the flip side of Captain America's journey, because the first one, I mean, even just visually, I think that's the thing that comes to mind for me first, just visually. If you look at Captain America, the First Avenger, at the heart of it, it's the whole all-American journey to become who Captain America was, to become literally the First Avenger, like it says in the movie. And then you take it and flip it around to the Winter Soldier, and it's just, color-wise, I just remember from my memory of it having kind of more grayish tones. It was a lot more watered down. Captain America was in a lot more, it felt like he was in a little bit more danger than he was in the first movie. there was a lot on the line. There was a lot more that he had to think about for himself. Yeah, it was just, and also you have the struggle of what do you do when you have someone that's really close to you. It doesn't end up being that close to you by the end. You know, all that kind of stuff. It was just really interesting from that point to watch.
Yeah, and even though like we didn't have a lot of crossover, we had obviously Natasha, Black Widow in this movie. We had the introduction of Sam Wilson as the Falcon, but there wasn't a whole lot of otherness from the MCU here, so it felt very singularly Captain America's film. And yeah, just having everything that he held near, you know, basically stripped away from him was a nice turn for the character. With that, we have now arrived at our number one film of the MCU. If you've been watching my shirt this entire time, you can probably get a good hint of what we're talking about. It is the latest film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and I've seen it 3 times. Isaac, how many times have you seen Black Panther?
I saw it twice, and I'm doing the Wakandan shoulder dance right now.
Yeah, Wakanda Forever. We're talking about Black Panther, obviously our number one movie of the MCU. This movie, and you know, obviously, so spoiler alert, we're black. You know, this
surprise
was, surprise. Wait, what? But yeah, no, this movie was, you know, it did
just
for
everything I wanted.
You know, the black community what Wonder Woman did for women. It was obviously everyone knows there have been other black-led superhero movies before now. There was, you know, Meteor Man, obviously there was the Blade trilogy. There have been others, you know, as well. But, you know, what this did, you know, just from a film point of view was it brought together, you know, a predominantly black ensemble in front of the camera. There was a lot of diversity. If you remember seeing in my Black Panther review, there's a lot of diversity behind the camera as well. And so it just created so many different elements of inclusion in this movie. And it brought, you know, for the black community, it wasn't just people our age or, you know, in their 30s and 40s, but there was a generational thing, you know, going on where you had people doing campaigns to bring young school children out to see this movie. You had older parents, you know, coming down to see, you know, Angela Bassett and Forrest Whitaker in this movie. I mean, just the level of talent and the variety of ages of talent that you had spanning from Bassett down to younger Michael B. Jordan to Chadwick Boseman to Letitia Wright.
Letitia
Wright. There's just so many.
So good.
What are those?
What are those?
I mean, there was just so many things that made this movie work and work in a way that was surprising, that was refreshing, that, you know, had sort of callbacks to certain elements of the MCU, but didn't ever feel beholden to trying to necessarily world build for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And in that way, it felt like the origin stories that we got from Phase 1, now in Phase 3. What was your, I guess, biggest impression from Black Panther?
Just how it made me feel. I feel like you kind of talked about it earlier, being someone that's black, someone that's a black actor, not a whole lot of that kind of amazingness going on the screen. Not a lot. There was a lot of magic happening up there. And I think what was cool for me was it wasn't one kind of black person. It was a lot of different kinds of black people, different ages, like you said, different generations, different cultures, different ways of living, different ways of thinking. Black women not even being questioned about their power and authority, like the fact that she was, there were generals that were women, and you didn't even question that.
Character, yeah,
and you didn't even question that was their power and that's what they had. Like, they didn't have to explain anything to anybody. It was just, this is the way it is, and this is how amazing it is, and you can either take it or leave it. And you can see just from the popularity alone that the world completely accepted that and rejoiced and said, yes, we've been waiting for a movie like this. And it just
you
phenomenal.
don't see there's not a lot of just pure black exceptionalism in film. There are a lot of, you know, sort of rising above circumstances type scenarios for a lot of predominantly black films. You know, a lot of movies in the Jim Crow era, movies in the slavery era, civil rights, that sort of thing. But yeah, no, it was cool to see a black society that was just, doing for itself and doing exceptionally well, and to a large extent, you know, better than many other parts of the world. And then you had this, you know, just it was everything I wanted it to be and more.
And I think the other thing that for me that I really enjoyed about it was, yes, that for you and I, it's especially cool because it's a black cast. But I think the other thing is they didn't really draw attention to that fact. Like, you didn't really see, oh, here comes the character that's going to mean a lot. It's just, here's the cast and this is what it should be. But also, I think by not having a lot of attention given to that fact about it, I mean, there was attention, but, you know, it wasn't like overplayed. I think it was also just a human story that a lot of people could relate to, and I think that that's what spoke to so much of the world, was just the story of who you are and what you stand for and what you bring to whatever you're a part of. I think at least that's what I took away from it a little bit.
No, absolutely, and the fact that, you know, not Chadwick Boseman, Michael B. Jordan brought us, you know, a villain in Killmonger that felt so deeply layered and was something that, you know, yes, it was sort of kind of the trope that we've seen from Marvel before of like, oh, here's Iron Man, here's a bigger Iron Man, here's Ant-Man, here's, you know, a Yellow Jacket type character, here's the Incredible Hulk, here's Abomination. Like, there's a lot of parallel villains, but I felt like we really got into the meat of what was driving Michael B. Jordan, and I think that lent a lot to the film. You know, and he added the aspect of you know, calling upon the African diaspora and sort of like what it means for Wakanda to be influencing other parts of the world while they're still in that sense of secretiveness, before they, obviously at the end of the movie, spoiler alert, decide to open up to everybody. But if you want to go for a more deep dive, you can check out my Black Panther review, so we don't spend too much more time on this. But I think that's pretty much it. So going back through it one last time real quick. Number 10, Iron Man 3. Number 9, Doctor Strange. Number 8, Thor Ragnarok. Number 7, Guardians of the Galaxy. Number 6, Spider-Man Homecoming. Number 5, Captain America Civil War. Number 4, The Avengers. Number 3, Iron Man. 2, Captain America the Winter Soldier. And coming in at number 1 is Black Panther. Yeah. It's a good list.
Good list. I think it's a lot
of that's a lot of meat that Marvel has provided us with. It's been a big meal that we've been enjoying over the last 10 years, if you want to keep that food analogy going. Anyway, we've gone way over what I thought we were going to, so apologize for the length of this video, but thank you so much to Isaac for joining me for this. This is a good list. I had a lot of fun doing it with you. Where can people follow you online?
People can follow me online. I'm at DisNerd1955 on Instagram. You can find me on Facebook, Isaac Robinson Smith. That's pretty much it. That's the extent of my stuff.
And I'm, of course, at W_Robinson Smith on Twitter and Instagram. Thank you guys so much for bearing with us. I hope you enjoy Infinity War. When you can see it, go see it. Come back to the channel. We'll have all the discussion about it that you can possibly want, and maybe a little bit more. So thank you so much, as always, for watching.
Thanks,
and
guys.
I will see you next time.